here we go. All right. So welcome to a lunch talk on career coaching, unleashing your potential with career and life coaching. And I think this is an area whereby many a time people get a little bit confusing. Why is that, two different things? Why career coaching? Why life coaching? And so when Aventis asked me, hey, would you like to give a talk on that? I thought, oh, sure, why not? Finally, I get a platform to clear the air on some of the common misconceptions. My name is Rachpal Kaur is the full name, but my first name is Rachpal. It's very easy to remember. I'm always rushing and I'll be your best pal. Okay, and not many people in the world have this name. I could go on half an hour about the story of my name, how I got it, and so on. Now,
unleash your potential.
Okay, yes, someone's selling it for me.
Career and life coaching.
Okay, yeah. So as we come in, Mara, is it possible to just, as you bring them in, just put it to auto mute? Would be helpful. Thanks, Myra.
Okay.
Myra is my colleague at Aventis who's helping me control at the back and everything. Without her, this won't happen. Okay, so let me quickly bring you to what's going to happen today. I'm going to talk about career and life coaching, the key differences, the key deliverables, and at the end of it, there would also, Myra will take on the stage to talk to you about the certification program that Aventis has. Right? So give me a thumbs up that everybody can actually hear. So I'm just doing a sound check. So at the bottom of your control, if you can hear me clearly, that means it's not breaking up. You are able to hear me. So, okay, Yi Xiang, thank you for that. You've given me a thumbs up. Yes, okay. Now, the other thing is all of y'all, whether you believe in a God or the universe, the power, the energy, I want you all to put your hands together right now, and you can either say it out aloud or silently and just say, please, 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 let not the drilling begin on Rachpal's rooftop. Okay, because yesterday at 1:30 sharp, they started fixing my roof. I live on the top floor of the building and I've got leakage on 3 parts of my flat. One is right on my bedroom, one is above me here, and one is in the kitchen. And they had to wait for the rainy season to stop before fixing it. And I guess now is the rainy season has stopped. So I've told them today between 1 to 2, please don't do any work. So let's pray that they don't. Okay. A little bit about myself. How did I get into career and life coaching? It's a long story, but I won't bore you with all the details, but maybe it might help you understand a little bit about how does one make this into a career choice, right? How do you get into this field of work? My background training is in psychology. Many moons ago, I wanted to be a world famous psychologist, and I thought, oh, psychology will be fun. You help people work through their problems and so on and so forth. But when I came back after my studies in 1995, or rather 1994, people did not want to see counselors or psychologists because it's like, something's really majorly wrong with you. And there was a lot of negative associations around that. So, it was pretty hard for me to find any work in this line of work, in this field. So I ended up working for the government department for about 7 years. And during this time, I picked up my master's in adult education and human development because I was really, really interested in understanding how people developed at the workplace. So my focus then shifted from helping people who are dealing with issues in their life. And I decided to shift my focus to helping people develop their potential. So that's how I started my whole journey in organizational development for the last 20 years. So that's where I am. Of course, some additional training that I took on during this time was NLP, Neuro-Linguistics Programming, which is the NLP certification. And that came together with a coaching certification back then, right? So this is, you're talking about the early 2000s when I got myself certified. So I am in Singapore considered one of the earlier batches of life or career coaches, right? Back then, it was not something that was well received or well known. It was still very new. So, right? And people were a bit hazy about it. So right now there is a little bit more knowledge, judging by the number of people who sign up for this talk today, that tells you this would not have happened back then. And I also did 2 other certifications. One is the Enneagram personality profiling. The other one is a Harrison assessment analysis tool, which help people assess about their career choices and what are the areas they can focus in. So from here, you can see that if you are looking to become a life or a career coach, you would find your own niche or own area that you would like to develop your potential in. So these are, for me, my areas that I felt that resonated strongly with who I am as a person and the work that I do. So when I finished, I quit the government service after 7 beautiful years with them. And then since then, for the last 20 years of my life, I've been working as an OD consultant, which means that I will go into organizations to help them develop their systems, review their system, their processes, as well as to provide training. And these are the key areas. Of course, I've done a lot of different trainings over the years. However, you will find that, you know, when you get into this field of work, you will evolve, you will progress, and then you will again find a new footing, a new balance in your life. So right now, at this point in my life, I think the one thing that is consistent for me is change management and coaching and mentoring at the workplace. I think this is something that I have started off my career with, and it's something that has still followed me today. The new areas that I've been working in the last 2 years is mindfulness, resiliency, strategic thinking and sense making, and diversity and inclusivity. So these are the three areas that I just recently started developing. And of course, I'm a life and career coach as well, which is why you're here for me to share. Now, if you have questions, there will be a question and answer session at the end for about 15 minutes. Hold off your questions there. You can write it in the chat, or you know, I would really love to hear some voices, so you can unmute yourself and actually just ask me the questions over the mic. Yeah. All right, so let's look at the 3 areas that I'm going to be covering today. What are the key objectives of career and life coaching? How do you know which one to choose, right? Do I go for career coaching or do I go for life coaching? And for those of you who are thinking of becoming coaches yourself, you must be thinking, oh, do I have to become one or the other? So these are some of the questions that I hope to clarify for you today. As well as what are the key outcomes to expect from either one of these coachings, right? So that is the broad frame for today's session. So let me start talking about coaching. And I start this segment by saying, what's the brouhaha around coaching? Simply because, like I told you, right, when I started coaching back then, there was this whole idea that it's a fad, you know, it's mumbo jumbo. Coaches are just out there, you know, to make a quick buck, exploiting people's in difficult times. So I've heard them all. I've heard all the different criticism and cynicism around coaching. And funnily, 20 years later, now that I'm, you know, been quite established in the industry, I still do get that. And if any one of you has watched any of my videos, I think because in the publicity materials, you would notice that there were links to my video. You will notice that some of the questions that people go like, when you do coaching, do I have to lie down on the couch and then you will psychoanalyze me? There are still a lot of misconceptions about that. So, you know, and then people don't understand, why do you need coaching? They go like, why can't people live? Like, why do they need a coach to tell them what to do in their career or what to do in their life? You know, why this whole fanfare around coaching to make it seem, you know, like it's a must have and so on. So there's a lot of different misconception and ideas and cynicism people have about coaching, right? So brace yourself that this is something that you would experience, especially when people are not really familiar with it. So let's talk about then what exactly is coaching. Perhaps in the earlier days, I was not able to articulate to my audience or to the people that I meet what exactly is coaching. But over the years, you know, I've become wiser. So to me, coaching is working with someone to overcome a specific challenge or a specific issue, right? So you will go to a coach if there is an area where you are struggling with. And when we talk about struggle, when we talk about challenge, when we talk an issue, it doesn't have to be something major that, you know, you're in life crisis, there's some kind of abuse, assault, childhood trauma that you're dealing with. No, because that's what the common misconception is, right? But here we are saying that anything, you could have an issue with anything. You're struggling with work, you're struggling with a choice between two jobs. You're struggling with, like the recent one I had, a second-year university student who wasn't quite sure which major to get into, because this is that critical year that student needed to decide what to major in, and there were like 4 or 5 choices. And I said, all right, fine, let's work through it, right? So it's simply that could be a challenge. So it could be a good problem that they are having, but they are having difficulty making sense out of it or coming to some kind of a decision. And so they use the expert guidance, right? So someone who is an expert, who knows this. So what does a coach do? Because you understand the cognitive processing, right? How does the person process information? How does the mind work? How your emotions, your behaviors. So a coach is someone who has expertise in all these areas and able to help them develop their capabilities. That's what a coach is. So I always tell people, think the following things: dance, tennis, fitness. There are coaches there for them, isn't it? So you want to be a good dancer, you want to be a good tennis player, you want to develop your fitness, you get yourself a coach if you're not doing well on your own, don't you? So similarly, you could be struggling in your career. Rather than struggle in your career, why don't you get someone who is an expert in this field and then get them to help you work through that? Just as a dance coach will help someone perfect their dance routine, their dance steps, their movements, and so on, to get their rhythm, right? So that's coaching. So now we look at what are the key differences between what is life coaching and what is career coaching, okay? So life coaching, you are struggling, or you are having issues or challenges with a particular stage in your life. Now, we as humans go through different life transition, right? Key life transitions. From the time you're born to the time you die, you go through various stages. Now, in psychology, we have different theories to explain the different transitions. The one that I most resonate with, and I will type it in the chat group so that if anybody would like to read more about it, you can. Let me just put that in the, okay. It is by this particular psychologist. Okay, his name is all right. His name is Erik Erikson. Sorry, the Erikson I spelled wrongly. It should be with an O. Erik Erikson, he talks about the psychosocial development. Basically, Erikson says that from the time you're born, your environment has an impact on you, it has an influence on you. And you can look at this together with another theory. Okay, not fire, auto check, Uri-Bonfrand-Brenner ecological systems theory, right? So basically they are saying that we are all existing within a system, within a structure. From the time we are born, right? Your family, your neighborhood, the country you're born in, right? The kind of family environment you grew up in. Do you grow up in a typical traditional family where you have both parents? Do you grow up in an extended family? Are you an only child? Are you a firstborn, secondborn, and so on? Which school did you go to? What kind of neighborhoods did you grow up in? What era did you grow up in? Right? Did you grow up in a time when everything was peaceful, kind of thing? So all these different things would have an impact on you. And as a result of that, it impacts the way you think, the way you feel, the way you act. So as you talk about the psychosocial, Erikson also says that we go through 8 stages in our development. So these are what we mean by key life transitions, right? So you're going from being a toddler to a little kid. Then you're going from being a little kid to a primary school kid. Then you're going to become you're leaving your primary school years, you're becoming an adolescent. From adolescence to young adulthood to middle adulthood to old age. So these are all different life transitions that people go through. As we go into adulthood, where does the biggest transition start impacting us? So that's what I've listed here. In case you're wondering that, hey, she said all these things about Erik Erikson, but they don't quite tally up with here. You notice that I've started with the adolescents here. So in life coaching, we deal with people who are going through very, who are going through changes in some of the key areas of their life. So for example, someone has just become a teenager, and for those of you who were teenagers not too long ago or have teenagers in your life, you will know that this is one of the most angsty period, right? They're struggling to find their identity. They're going through maybe a new school, hormonal changes, body, going haywire, arrive with them, pimples or sudden growth spurts and so on. So all these things, they're struggling to find their identity. So during the teenage years is where they find identity. So this is where many of them struggle. And then if they do not get the right kind of support at this point, they could actually then find their own identity through external sources. And if they find good role models, good on them. But if they don't, then guess what? They end up, following trends or people that could be detrimental, like gangs, for example. That's why a lot of teenagers get involved in gangs, right? Now, then you talk about, from being a student to a working adult. Now, that's another key transition, because especially for those of you who have, for those young adults who have never had a job before, so you did the typical thing. Let's finish school. Okay, let's go out to work, right? And some of them may not even have done internships. So the whole, going into the workplace, adjusting to the work rules can be a little bit daunting to them. In fact, in one of the most dramatic cases I encountered was about 7 years ago, where one of my clients, contacted me in the middle of the night at about 10 something at night and said, I really need help. There's a crisis. And I go, what is the crisis? This, my sister is suicidal. And I said, what happened? And she says, she just started work at this company 3 days ago, and something didn't go well. And, she's in a bad shape right now. Could you come down and help us right now? And I said, listen, I don't do suicide intervention. What I would like you to do is make sure she gets some medical attention today. And if you can't get her to agree to medical attention, someone must look after her 24/7. That means somebody must be awake to keep an eye on her throughout the night until the morning, and then I would be able to come and help you talk to her and convince her to get some help. Now, she was only 3 days on the job, right? And there were things that happened at the workplace which, if I were to tell you right now, you'll go like, but that's normal. Like, no one told her where the pantry was, how to get coffee, how to get water. Her computer broke down. She didn't know what to do. Simple stuff, right? And you might be thinking right now, but not to a person who has never, ever, ever, ever worked in her life, right? So, and also sometimes, working from student to working life, you have to work with different departments, bosses, so on and so forth. It can be a little bit daunting. So this could be another one. Another common area of life transition is when people get, married. You would think like, what's the big deal? But again, if you look in terms of Singapore, we do have quite a high rate of divorce in the first 5 years. And if perhaps some of this could have been helped, if they may have talked to someone about the struggles, because suddenly from single to married, there are a lot of adjustments. So a lot of adjustment issues. So in terms of life coaching, we are talking about dealing with people's adjustment issues, right? They are going from one kind of life experience to a different kind of life experience, and then they struggle. They can't find their footing. Okay, midlife. So many things happen to people in their 40s and their 50s, isn't it? Then you are hitting retirement. Oh no, I've worked for 50 years of my life and now suddenly I'm getting retired. All right, that's another time that a lot of people get divorced, in the retirement age, because suddenly you were away from each other's life for 8 hours a day, and now suddenly you're looking at each other every day, and you get annoyed with one another. So these are all the different kind of issues that people struggle with: divorce, death, pregnancy, becoming a parent, and so on, right? So when someone comes for life coaching, usually these are the areas in their life that they are struggling with, right? And you, as a life coach, you will then help them make sense about all these things, give them some perspective, and then help them develop strategies on how they can manage this part of their life better. To close the loop on my client's sister, she did seek some medical attention. for in the interim, but then she said that she felt comfortable with me, that she wanted to continue coaching with me. And I took her on. I said, on the condition that she continues to get medical help, I will be her sounding board, but she needs to make sure that she get proper attention for her suicidal tendency, although it was just a one-off, but she agreed to that. And so I help her work through her issues and her strategies. So she's doing well right now. So yeah, these are some of the things that you will do in life coaching. Now let's look at what then would be the key objectives of career coaching. Yeah. Typically, a person who's looking for career coaching is having a struggle or a challenge in their career choice or their current job. So they, sometimes it could be like I told you, right? A graduate having so many choices, don't know what to do. Or maybe someone is in mid-career stage and they are like, I want to change my career. I want to go to a different job. I'm not quite sure. I've got this, what should I do? And so on. Quite common of that. And some people are just not happy in their current job. Or maybe, they go like, oh, I love my current job, but I don't know whether I'm progressing, whether I'm growing, so I want to explore my possibilities. And over here, basically what we're doing is we are helping them develop their capability, right? So, sorry, and another area is we're actually helping them develop their capability. So there could be a job specific, right, area that they are weak at and they need to develop: public speaking, effective leadership, interpersonal skills, right? So, and this one could be they themselves volunteering to come for career coaching, okay? And they would also could be sent for by their employers. I think there's a question that I need to answer right now. HB, you said, could these be maladjusted people generally? Because I think that question, are you referring it to, if you can unmute yourself, is it possible for you to just clarify what that question was about, HB? Who are you referring to when you're talking about the maladjusted people? Was it with reference to, okay, I'm going to make an assumption here because I'm not getting a response. I'm going to make an assumption. I'm assuming that you're talking about my client's sister who was suicidal after 3 days of on the job. Could this be maladjusted people? No, not necessarily. So be mindful. Okay, thank you. So I got that right. So be careful as well for that. Yes, as career coaches and life coaches, sometimes we do make assumptions because, that's natural. Every one of us makes assumptions, but we always have to test our assumptions to see whether it's correct. So no, not necessarily. And this is not a maladjusted, rather this was just a person who lacked experience. That's it. It was just a very naive, person who had led a very sheltered life, that basically her mom and her sister and her dad were her everything. That's it. She was one of those kids who would just go to school, study hard, do her homework, do work properly, come home, right? She had very little, and when she went out with her friends also, it was, like really by the book. Whatever time parents tell her to come home, she'll come back by the curfew time. She's just basically a very good child, yeah. Okay, no worries. Yeah. So it was just a very very well protected child. That's it. So as a result of that, she was struggling. Okay, so I'm glad we got that answered. Yeah, so career coaching. So somebody who wants to develop their capability. So like I was saying, that it could be that this person themselves volunteers and say, hey, I need career coaching because you know what, I realized that when I do presentation and public speaking, which is required on my job, I'm not really good at it. I get nervous, I get shaky. Okay, let me get a coach to help me with it. Or it could be someone that the organization would appoint and says that, oh, we want to groom this person, and so as a result of that, we need to make sure that they develop effective leadership skill. I had one case whereby the organization sent this particular head of department to me for coaching simply because excellent in his job, does work properly and all that, but when it came to interpersonal skills, literally the person would put down the staff so badly until they broke down and cried. And then when we had the coaching session, it was probably one of my funnest coaching sessions of all time, because he would just go like, oh my God, and he would roll his eyes when he would cite examples and all that. And it was hard for me to actually explain that these are not appropriate behaviors. Like he says, but I'm being authentic. So we had to find a new way for this person to actually be authentic. That means I want to be true to myself. I want to be able to speak my mind, but in a way that, the person would be able to receive it. So yeah, and he was very, very open to that. Pauline, so Pun Chuang says different coaches have different life experience and perspective. How to match coaches to counselors? Okay, I'll take this at the end. Yeah, I'll take this at the end. Thank you for that question. All right. Then you would also, as a career coach, you would also understand about different life stages that people are in, career life stages, and at different career life stages, there are different models to that that you can read up on. And at different life stages, people go through different experiences, and to help them get clarity through that stages. Okay, so, and then a person could be going through a career transition or change, career transition either by choice or by circumstances. Right now, I'm seeing a lot by circumstances. Pandemic, people have lost their jobs. Their jobs have been restructured, right? So either they are looking to develop a new career pathway or business or something, right? So this could be it. So at the end of it, with career coaching, the key thing here is there is outcomes and developmental milestones. This would be a key feature for career coaching, right? Do career coaching and life coaching overlap, right? You bet they do, yeah? So as a coach, it is very, very important for you to listen to this person that's come to you and see what exactly their needs are. So the key thing is to find out what exactly that this person wants to focus on and what is that specific area that they need help in. Okay, remember, as a coach, when you work with your clients, you have to constantly remind them, one issue at a time, one issue at a time. So always use analogies and metaphors, right? I like to use fitness. You can't suddenly, after not exercising for many, many, many years, suddenly wake up one day and say, okay, I need to have a fitness coach. Okay, fine. And then you tell the fitness coach, I want to be fit in all areas of my life. Cannot. The fitness coach will tell you, okay, they will assess you first, and then they'll go like, you know what? Your legs seems to be quite strong, but your arms are quite weak. Okay, maybe we need to first focus on building up your arm strength. Then we focus on building up your leg strength, and then your core strength, and then we can get you running, right? So you cannot just go to a fitness coach and expect in 5 sessions for a miracle to happen. No, it will be probably 6 to 8 months before you actually see a change in your fitness level, right? Because the fitness coach needs to work on one area at a time. So the same thing with life coaching and career coaching. They will overlap, but we need to know which is the area that we want to be able to focus on, right? All right. So generally, okay, whether it's life coaching or career coaching, this is my model. Other coaches might tell you other models, but for me, because I come from the cognitive psychology background and neuro-linguistic background, and for me, it's ultimately always about connecting to a higher purpose. If a person is struggling in their marriage and come to me for life coaching, right, in their relationships, and says like, oh, so I would always bring them back to the higher purpose. What is your higher purpose? And that doesn't mean I force them to stay in the marriage. If after the coaching session, they decide that, hey, you know what? it is best for both of us to go our separate ways, then that is their decision. Ultimately, the decision is made by them, not us coaches. We only help them create the garbage, as it's written there, clear the garbage. That's all we do. And when I do career coaching, and if I'm appointed by an organization to do career coaching for their staff, I always remind the organization that my job is to help this person clear the garbage. At the end of my coaching session, the person might get clarity about their higher purpose. And as a result of that, they may leave their job. Are you prepared for that? Okay, I always tell the organizations, are you prepared for that? Because once people get clarity, once they're connected with their higher purpose, they may realize that it is not your organization, but maybe this is not what they want to do. They want to do something else. Every single time I tell organizations that, they think it's funny, right? They laugh and they go, yeah, sure, you know, because they are absolutely certain that the person is not going to leave. And I'm here to tell you 100% of the time that I have coached someone appointed by the organization, the person has left the organization, whether they left 6 months later, okay, or 1 year later, the person left the organization. And the person would contact me and say that, hey, I've left. Thank you so much for the coaching session because I got a lot of clarity. And the last few months, I used this, and this is what has happened, right? So I know that I'm basically putting myself out of business there because all of you HR there go like, oh my God, we better not hire her. But think about that, right? So once people have clarity of their higher purpose, it's nothing the organization can do to hold them back. I remember there was this one particular person, because it's a very niche organization, I will not mention which industry, and he was brought in from a European country to Singapore to work in a specific field of work, and he was the best in the world, means among the top 5 in the world for that particular field of work, and he was brought in. And as you know, he was then made the head of department as well, and the organization says that you know, he lacked leadership skills, and I knew that because I was consulting for them, and his leadership skills were really lacking. He was just not communicating with his staff. He was a good person, but just, you know, not good at his leadership. So put him up for coaching, and finally after the 3rd session, he told me, he says, you know what, my wife has just given birth to a baby. My baby is a few months old. Your country only gives me, at that time, I think it was 3 days paternity leave. I want to spend my time with my baby as well. In my country, I'll get, I think, 6 months or something, you know, paternity leave that I can spend time on baby, and then I can still come back and do my work. And that's important to me. And 6 months later, he left, packed up, took the wife, took the baby, and left for his home country. So these things can happen once a person connects with their higher purpose, right? So always, so the focus of coaching for me from the neuro-linguistics and the cognitive psychology perspective is always connecting people with their higher purpose. So what are their values, beliefs? And then we can help them develop their capabilities, behaviors, and help them understand what kind of environment can be supporting them. So as coaches, we are garbage diggers, right? We dig all the garbage, okay? We dig out all the limiting beliefs, and then we help them develop empowering beliefs. Right, that's another comment on the chat. Let me see if I need to address that now. What would be an average timeline for effective coaching to happen? Because we are working one issue at a time, I usually tell my client, expect a commitment of about 60 to 90 days. Again, there is a scientific reason for that, because in order for change to actually, so this question was asked by Wong Yu Xiang, right? What would be the average timeline for effective coaching to happen? I would say easily anywhere from about 60 to 90 days. And during that time, you may actually have about 5 to 8 sessions, thereabouts, okay, to be able to work through the issues. Why? How do I come to that number? It's because, again, we are going back to how our brain works, right? In order for people to understand that a change has happened, in order for our brain to process a change and to internalize the change and accept the change, studies have shown that it takes anywhere between 90 to 100 days for that to happen. Right? 90 to 100 days for people to finally accept that a change has occurred, that this is it. This is how the way it is. This is the new reality. So if you are going to be coaching someone, they're going to be developing new capabilities, they need time to practice that. Because after each session, there'll be homework, there'll be tasks for them to do. They will need to go back and reflect. So each one of you will develop your own model of coaching. So for example, in my model, I do 5 sessions because I mean, after so many years, I've refined my model and I find that this is what works. And I said, I tell people 5 sessions and you work with me over a 2-month period. For the first 2 sessions, I'll see them 1 week apart. Subsequently, I'll see them anything from about 10 to 21 days apart, simply because as you, depending on how much work they put in the initial sessions, right? Then they will have to go out there, try out new things, come back, report, reflect, and then we refine the strategy, keep refining the strategy. That's what we do. Okay. Let's see. Okay, you're welcome, Ms. Young. Samantha Tan, is it better to do one-on-one coaching or group coaching? Context dependent. It is very much context dependent. I do team coaching as well as one-on-one coaching. So it really depends on the context. In the cases where I do team coaching, it's because usually I would have done some diagnostic work. So as a consultant, I would have worked with the organization to actually find out what are the issues that the organization is facing. And then based on that, I would make my recommendation whether it should be individual coaching or group coaching. So it is really dependent on the diagnosis before I give a solution, right? Yeah. Okay. So do we choose life coaching or do we choose career coaching? Yeah, so that becomes the question. So always go back to what exactly is the pressing issue or concern, right? What exactly is it that the client wants to work with? Where is that client feeling stuck? What is causing them the greatest discomfort? Work with that. There are different tools. Once you'll find. For example, I like to use the life wheel to make them reflect on the different areas of their life and then pick and give a scaling, give a rating, and from there we would actually say, okay, which is the area that you would like to focus on? Yeah. So it really is, where is their greatest discomfort? Where is their biggest pain point? So based on that, they would then decide. So for example, with that young student who came up to me, it was very clear cut that it was going to be career coaching. Because why? I'm in 2nd year, right? And then I have to make a critical choice right now to decide on which are my majors, because I'm going into year 3 already after the summer break, and I need to quickly decide. But I've got all these choices and I'm so confused. So it was clear cut. Okay, let's do that. So did a few assessment, did a few SWOT analysis, talk to the person, bounce off ideas, find out the person's higher purpose at this point in time, and so on. What excites the person, and there she goes, right? So what is their biggest pain point? Now, I want to add on that even then, right, whether it's life coaching or career coaching, it's very subjective. Okay, so now it's a little bit of an interaction time. The first one, I don't feel like I'm growing in my career. Put your answers in your chat. Would you say that this person needs career coaching or life coaching? Let's hear from all of you. Career or life? Type it in. I'd like to see your responses. Come, everyone. Okay, it started off with a lot of career, and then suddenly some people started saying both, some started saying life, but overwhelmingly career, both. Yeah. Okay, now let's look at the second one. Let's look at the second scenario. Okay, I hate my job and there are days when I feel like just bashing everyone out. scenario 2. I'm putting an X there so I know that now it's after this, okay? Life, both. Okay. Right. Okay. Life, anger issues, Gerald says. Very specific. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. X. Now I got he should say a fortune teller. He says, okay. All right. Okay, next one. We are grooming a high potential for leadership position. So obviously this is an organization that has got in touch with you. So what do you think you should do? Okay. All right. So overwhelmingly career, but a few of you still say maybe life coaching still. So this is where I say it's actually very, very subjective, right? Very, very subjective. I don't feel like I'm growing in my career. If someone were to come to me with that issue, I would be inclined to more look at issues happening in that person's life as to why this person is feeling that way, right? I would talk about the person's career, but I would also try to find out what are the underlying issues that this person may be grappling with or may not even realize. I always call it the iceberg, right? You all know the famous iceberg model. 80% of what we don't know is in our unconscious and subconscious. And that's what I want to be able to dig out to find out what is it that is preventing this person from growing in their career. So I may want to dig out from that angle, right? So while the person comes to me for career coaching, I would actually talk to the person and say, listen, I know you came to me specifically for career coaching. However, in my experience, what can also happen is sometimes there are things, then I'll talk to them about the psychosocial model, about Erik Erikson's theory, try to explain that to them. And then from there, I would say, maybe we might actually have to look at what's happening in your life, that because today this issue is propping up in this particular work scenario. Down the road, it could come up again. So unless you don't fix that issue at the root, this thing will keep cropping again and again and again. So that would be my advice to that person. I hate my job, and there are days I feel like bashing up everyone. Okay, this one is issues surrounding some frustration this person is feeling. I would definitely say that I would say life coaching, right? Clear cut. Let's work on life coaching for sure. And we are grooming a high potential for leadership position. Naturally, an organization would do that. I would definitely do a career assessment on this person. I would do a capability assessment on this person. So which is where I would use all my career guidance tools, right? But at the same time, remember I told you about that person who says my baby, and then packed up and left. Yeah, so definitely you also want to find out what's happening in their life. In fact, there was one situation I had whereby I was doing consulting. So as part of my consulting, I would also be doing coaching for the management team. And one day when I went in for my meeting, as usual, I'll meet with the CEO first. And he says, hey, come on in. I need to have a chat with you, but let's close the door. And let's close the door means it's something really confidential. So I thought, oh, okay, something big's happening within the organization and I need to know. And then he goes, it's something about myself. And I thought, oh my God, please don't tell me some deep dark secret of yours. I don't want to have to work, on that. And then he goes, it's an issue with my wife. And I was like, oh my God, please don't tell me that going to get a divorce and I have to walk you through this process because it's early in the morning. I'm not ready for that conversation, right? So you see, you could be doing a career coaching and you do not know where that conversation is going to go. But the thing is that he and his wife was grappling with a very personal issue regarding having to make a critical decision with regard to their unborn child, whether to terminate the pregnancy or to carry it to full term, knowing that the child will die within weeks of being born. What do I say? Oh no, I'm here as a career consultant, so please go talk to someone else. No, you have to quickly switch hats, right? You have to quickly switch hats. So you will start with career, but life issues will definitely come in with the high potentials as well. Xiang says, in short, all of us need coaches at some point in our lives. You know what, Xiang? Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as you're grappling with something and struggling with something, get a coach, sort it out, clear it up. I have some clients who, will have one issue, sort it out. 2 years later, contact me again. Hey, I've reached these milestones now. I'm struggling with another milestone. Let's work, and that's it. And we do that. I myself have coach. In fact, I have 2 coaches, and I work with them as and when I need, when I'm grappling with some issues in my life. So we all at some point in time need coaches, right? You need a hairdresser all the time as well. So same thing. Coaches is another one on the list. Okay. All right. So basically, with the key outcomes of life coaching, the client wants to get clarity of an issue, and please remind them that it's all about confronting and reliving some of their life experiences, and they may have to address certain difficult relationships or certain relationships and how they impact them. Yeah, that's the life coaching. Whereas in career coaching, it's about getting goal clarity, building their capability, evaluating their choices that they have, as well as to help them understand their career strengths. Yeah. All right. So I've come to the end of my session. Yeah, spot on. I went over time by 5 minutes. There was one question Pun Chong had asked, right? Different coaches have different life experiences and perspectives. How to match coaches and coachees? So how do we match a coach and coachee? That's why before you take on a coach, every coach will give you a free conversation, right? A free meeting. So usually most coaches, we give you about 30 minutes of the time so that you can book in with us, which is free, of course. During this 30 minutes, you want to be able to get a sense whether this coachee and you, coach and you will connect. That means, does this person energy, fit your energy? Does this person's approach or perspective aligns with your perspective? Is this person willing to look at things from your perspective, or does this person have a very rigid prescriptive style that you cannot, and the person is not willing to work through that? So the coach need to also see whether it's an issue that they are able to deal with, and sometimes the coach might say, this is not something that I think would be within my purview. I don't think I will be the best coach to serve you. And they will actually recommend you to someone else and says like, why don't you work with this coach? Because I know this coach, is able to deal with that. So yeah, there is no magic formula, right? When you're talking about career coaching, there could be a formula, right? For life coaching, not so much. For career coaching, there could be, in that you might look at the person's years of experience, right? The person's ability to understand different level of stuff. So for example, you definitely, as a fresh coach, I would not have taken on the top management as my clients, because I would not be able to understand the entire dynamics of an organization and the challenges that leaders face. But of course, as I grow older and work with more organizations, and do more research, I'm well versed with that. So I'm more comfortable right now to take on those levels. Yeah. Okay, so Pun Chuang, I hope I addressed that question for you. Let's go to the bottom. Can a young coach in a late 20s coach an older CEO? I just answered that, right? I'm not saying that you can't, but sometimes what could happen is there could be certain aspects of it that the young coach may not be able to relate to. So in a sense, it's not just about, I know the coaching model if I answer all these questions. So sometimes it's also about how we connect with that person. In NLP, we say that, do we have that ability to understand that person's map of the world, right? So are there certain things that the person is experiencing that can this younger person relate to that? It's the same thing. About 2 months ago, I had a young person age 25, contact me for coaching session. And on the free coaching session, she had one question for me at the end. You are much older than me. What is your experience in coaching younger people? Because younger people nowadays have very different life, experiences and circumstances compared to your generation. So how do I know that you're able to serve me? So it's vice versa as well, right? Nowadays. Gerald asked the question, what is the Singapore landscape like regarding the area of profession, in this area of professional work? That is, what are the requirements to become a life or career coach? What kind of organization hires such posts? What is the general expectation of the marketplace in this area? Well, definitely there would be some certification required. So I think later on my colleague Myra will walk you through the some of the certification program that Aventis has. You can also look up, research up on all that, but definitely you want to be able to have some kind of certification. So like in my case, because of my background in psychology, and my certification comes together with my neurolinguistics programming course. So definitely you want to have some kind of a structure to help you work through that. Okay, what kind of organizations? Actually, now almost every organization would work with some coach. So it's very diverse. In fact, schools, education field, there's a lot of requirement for that. What is the general expectations of the marketplace in this area? I think it's very, very competitive. So what is that extra, what is the X factor you bring in? What is it that, what angle do you bring in that someone else may not offer, right? So for example, with me, I'm very big on cognitive psychology and social psychology. So these are my areas that I am able to work with people. So for example, the one thing that I do not do is I do not do couples coaching. Yeah. I can coach an individual who's having trouble in their marriage, but couples sitting down together with two of them, that's really not my forte. Yeah, so that's not a skill or an area that I have developed. So I would definitely not take on that client. I would probably refer them to someone else. Juan asked a question, how the beliefs and the life purpose relate to religion? I leave it to the individual. For me, higher purpose is about connecting with, do you have an aim? Do you have a thing that you're working to? If my client connects with a religion, then we work with that. I don't have to have the same religious beliefs as my client. I don't have to have any religious beliefs at all. But if that's my client's belief, then I work with what my client gives me. So my question to my client would be, why is that important? How is that important to represent who you are? How does it connect with your career choice or your relationship choice or your life choice? Yeah. So yes, some people do bring in their religion. Okay, I will have people now asking me, if you take me on as a client, how open are you to the idea behind sexuality, transsexuality, bisexuality, open relationships, and so on, right? So some coaches, you would go like, ew, this clash with myself as a person, and I don't think I'll be comfortable doing that. Then be honest and don't take that client on, right? So if it's something that you feel that is out of your bounds, you can't deal with that, if it clashes very strongly with your personal values, then you know you're not going to serve this person. Then you have to be honest and say, okay, I will not be the best person to serve you. What does a coaching package of 8 sessions look like in terms of cost? It really would vary from person to person, from coach to coach, right? So coaching sessions can go anywhere from about $100 an hour to about $500 an hour, depending on the experience of the coach, also the kind of tools that the coach will use, the kind of training the coach has gone through, anything, right? So that's how the range is for coaches to market themselves. So that would be roughly around what you're looking at. Yeah. Any other question? what does it, okay, there was one question by Samantha that I think, what does it take to be coached? Do you need to have many experiences? So like I said, Samantha, I think someone asked that question just now. And my answer was, do get some kind of certification, right? And as part of your certification process, you would also go through clock in some hours. So, you would be required to do coaching and then report to your, to the program. So yeah, so you will start with your experience, and many of us would actually, so like even for me, when I started as a coach 20 years ago, you will coach your friends, you will, do 2-3 coaching sessions with people to gain that experience. And once you build that up sufficiently, then, you get started. You just have to start somewhere, you just have to start. Yeah. The experience will come. I know as a beginner coach, you think like, oh no, how it seems like a very long journey. I was there, now I'm here talking to you about it, right? So yeah, I get that. Do you give clients exercises to do or just talk to the issue? Oh no, they have homework to do. You come for coaching by Rachpal, make sure that you do your homework. I tell you that before you sign me on as your coach, you will be getting homework tasks to do. And this homework could be anything from written exercises to whatever, depending on what is the issue that you're grappling with, right? We will talk through the issue, but you will definitely have homework. You will come back, we will review it, and then from there we will build it up, the next conversation and so on. So definitely they will have a lot of homework to do. And with me, I make it known to my clients, if they do not do their homeworks, I basically just terminate my relationship with them, and I actually refund them fully whatever. Even though they have come for 3 sessions, I would give them a full refund simply. And one client almost got that treatment. I actually took out my checkbook and started writing her name, and she couldn't believe that I was actually doing that. Because that was session number 3, and she's not done a single homework. And every time it was about the other people in her life causing her misery. And I was like, I've given you all this reflection exercises to do, and she had all sorts of excuses for that. And I said, you're not committed to change. And as long as you're not committed to change, I'm not going to sit down here and listen to your bullshit. So here you go. And she didn't take me seriously. And I said, I will refund you the whole. And in case anybody wants to know why I do that, simply because I don't want someone going out there and say, oh, I was coached by Rachpal, but nothing changed in my life. Because they will forget to tell people that they didn't do their part. So yeah, there will be homework. Most coaches will give you homework to do. Okay. All right, I've got time for one more question, and then I will have to log off. And Mara, you'll be taking over, right? Yeah. Any one last question? Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So thank you for attending. You can give your feedback by scanning this. Let us have your feedback about today's talk, right? And if you want to talk about, yeah, you're welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for spending your lunch with me. Thank you. And I'll see you in the cyber world, right? Cyber world.
Rachpal, could you go to the next slide regarding the costs?
Sure, I can.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's sharing by our career coach expert, Ms. Rachpal. Thank you so much for today's sharing. We're very happy to share that we're having our career coach professional certification. Right now, it's going on 2,800 for 2 stages, 3 to 4 July and 7 to 8 August. So if you guys register before 23 June, there's 20% off. Just include the promo code ACC20. You can scan the QR code for more cost information. Yeah. If there's more like queries that you need to ask, you can just leave your contact details in the evaluation form in the previous slide. Okay, we'll just leave this on for the next 2 minutes. Okay, I think we'll just end the session here. We'll be sending a recording of this session to you guys tomorrow. So just look out for the email.
All right. Bye, everybody. I'm going to
Bye.